everybody. Last session. This is just holding us up from the opportunity for a reception, which some of you are already trying to take advantage of. So this is our fourth virtual session of the day, and then we'll have one more tomorrow. So far, we've gone along pretty well. So I'm very pleased to have us start with this last breakout session today, disrupting the baby food category. Shibani Baluja, the founder and CEO of Little Gourmets. This happens to be an area that I'm pretty interested in, so you're going to see me going back and forth as we have one other breakout session. At the end of this, and I'll probably say it again as we finish up, we'll go down to our reception. Shibani, we're ready to go. We look forward to having you.
Great, thank you, Tom. And I'm excited to give this talk. I wish I could do it in person, but I'm glad to still have the opportunity. So hopefully I can make this a little bit engaging, as I understand I'm in between you all and cocktails. So, I'll just get started here. So today I wanted to take you through the birth of Little Gourmets, why HPP is so important to our mission and our long journey, but successful journey to launch. So a little bit about me. I'm a University of Michigan alum. I got my undergrad and grad degrees there. In between, I had a stint at Merrill Lynch in their private client group. But I spent the bulk of my career at Kraft Foods, mostly in mergers and acquisitions. So mostly been in finance and strategy for that career prior to Little Gourmets. So Little Gourmets. So I'm not someone who ever intended to be an entrepreneur. I just had an idea that kept nagging at me until I finally decided I had to do something about it. So Little Gourmets was really born of three things. One was a health issue that caused me to clean up my diet. And in doing so, I felt so much better and became more aware of the things that we put into our bodies. The second was becoming a mom and experiencing the irony of the food that was out there for our babies and how overprocessed it was, and basically the opposite of what I was eating myself. And so with that, I started cooking all my son, Jaden here on the right, all his meals. And in doing so, I used a variety of vegetables, a variety of spices, and just created meals that I felt were delicious and full of flavor. And as Jaden became a toddler, I started to see the benefits that introducing fresh food and really flavorful food had on him. He loved vegetables, he loved flavorful food, and he ate so differently than other toddlers his age. And so it just got me curious. And so given that I was at Kraft at that time, I had a lot of research at my fingertips. So I started looking at the baby food market, and I found he was full of big food players and a lot that had been around for a while. And really what was happening in the industry was it was about $1 billion, and it had just been declining steadily over the years, about 1% per year. There were new entrants coming in, but they weren't really growing the category. They were mostly stealing share from the giant Gerber and other smaller brands. And really, if you looked at what was happening in the category, there had not been much product innovation. There had been the launch of organic brands, which did help clean up ingredients. There had been a lot of packaging innovation, but the underlying products really looked like what Gerber had essentially launched in the 1920s, kind of overprocessed jarred food. And so, you know, coming from Kraft and knowing the appetite for risk at big food, you know, seeing that all the players here were owned by big food really meant there was a lack of probably appetite to take on much risky innovation. So then my next question was, are there others out here like me? And my research showed me that the answer was a resounding yes. So 50 to 60% of consumers had left the baby food category. And it wasn't because they wanted to, it was because they felt they had no other choice. In my research, I found that only 16% of those making their baby food said it was because they enjoyed it and they had the time. Instead, it was full of parents that felt guilty because they were either buying processed baby food or guilty because they were taking time away from the little time they had with their kids to end up cooking their meals. And it just felt a bit unfair to put on already stressed new parents. And really the key complaints were the variety, this over processing, and then the lack of nutrition. And what I was also seeing was, if you looked at the baby food category, about 90 to 95% of the products were fruit first, meaning we were feeding our kids a bunch of apples and bananas and very few vegetables. And this led to baby food being high in sugar. It was natural sugar, but it was still high in sugar. And what parents were really looking for were ways to get their kids to eat more vegetables. And then I started doing a bit more on the medical research. So why was Jaden, my son, eating differently than other kids? He didn't like chicken nuggets, he didn't like pizza, and he didn't like hot dogs. And it didn't make a ton of sense to me at first. But as I started digging into the medical research, what I found was we have this incredible window of opportunity early in life, in infancy, to shape our kids' future eating habits. And if we fed them vegetables and flavorful food, they developed a love of vegetables and flavorful food. But if we did the opposite, if we fed them over processed food or very fruit heavy food, then they developed a love of sweet food, sweet and salty food, which led them to want more processed foods. And it felt like an incredible find that we actually had what seemed like the solve for picky eating at our fingertips, but there was nobody in the industry that was really trying to pioneer this. We were also finding that it wasn't just helping kids eat better, it actually was the time to shape our palates even as adults. And so the research shows that until about 2 years of age, your palate is pretty open, and then it starts to close. And even in adulthood, it takes a little while to learn to like new foods. And so if we could help parents give kids food early in life to help shape them into healthy eaters, it could help them for a lifetime of healthy eating, help, the obesity crisis and the health crisis that we find ourselves in today. And so as I looked at everything I was seeing, a declining market, limited innovation, very little differentiation between these very fruit heavy brands, consumers leaving the category, but seeking and searching for solves, and then products that really weren't using the latest of science and research. Everything I saw, everything I read really led me to believe that I had an idea that could disrupt the baby food market, and baby food was ripe for disruption. And so from there, I decided to take that plunge and see if I could create something better. So in doing so, as I said, my background was really strategy and finance. I had no operations background. And so now I had no idea what to do next. I was past my area of expertise of studying industries and finding opportunities. And so I brought on a couple of R&D contractors, ex-Kraft, and we started to do a technical assessment of the category. And what we wanted to find out was who was delivering vegetables that tasted good, and then we could hone in on the technology they were using. And this was back in 2016. So I hadn't quite made the connection that shelf stable was something that I was not, that I was objecting to as a parent. I really didn't understand all that happens to make a product shelf stable. And so we really studied, all shelf stable options, not just baby. We were looking at anything that was vegetable heavy. And we came to the conclusion that there really was no shelf stable technology that could deliver my vision. And the issue was the processing that goes to make a product shelf stable. So I could start with a product that was full of vegetables, full of flavor, but after it went through the processing, I couldn't guarantee that on the back end that it was any better than the products that were on the market today. And so I ended up deciding that, well, if I couldn't launch a product that I felt great about, then I wasn't going to launch anything. And so walked away for a little bit until I discovered, or I'd say my R&D contractors discovered HPP being used in things like baby and other salsas, guacs, and fresh products. And so we tasted some HPP products and really were struck by how we could taste the underlying ingredients, how they tasted fresh. And so we decided, you know, HPP was the perfect solve, and we had to figure out how we could use that technology. And so really why HPP was so critical. So we were really looking to deliver a convenient product that parents felt great about feeding their kids. So we wanted to deliver taste, we wanted to deliver nutrition. We weren't just thinking about the benefits of today of taste and nutrition. We really were also thinking about this flavor training that we wanted to help parents with. And so with HPP, we could deliver this very fresh taste, this closest to homemade taste. We could deliver nutrients that were as close to fresh as possible. And then I specifically was looking for a refrigerated product because I felt like it would be more convenient to parents. And so wanted to go a little bit into the science. This is a little bit out of my comfort zone. So I've stolen with permission some slides from some of the companies there, but really looking at sensory. And so what you could see here is there was such a minimal difference in in color, aroma, appearance between fresh and HPP, these three fruit purees here. And if you looked at more factors, fresh and HPP were really just on top of each other in things like taste and color and again, aroma and consistency. And so really it was getting to this product that could taste like it was made in your kitchen. And so this was so important because to flavor train, the vegetable has to taste like the underlying vegetable. Otherwise, your kids aren't going to learn to like that vegetable, and you'll be feeding them from a pouch for their entire lives if you want them to eat vegetables. Exaggerate a little bit, but so if you looked at what the studies were showing, if you compared it to heat, you see here how this heat pasteurized product, orange juice, it doesn't really taste like fresh oranges. It tastes more processed. It tastes a bit more bitter. Here, a spinach puree, basically losing some of the color and the nutrients in this one as well. And so really what we would say is that the simple inclusion of vegetables is not enough. They really do have to taste like a vegetable. They also need to deliver the nutrients of a vegetable, because what's the point of delivering vegetables where the nutrients have been degraded? And so as you look at what happens with this heat processing, you can see some of these nutrients, really minimal impact with HPP from comparing to the fresh, and then the degradation that happens with heat. And so you can see both here, the strawberry puree on the left and the orange juice on the right, where with the conventional processing, you really are left, certain vitamins are really being degraded by that process. And so with that, we really felt like it was either HPP or there's no product. We would walk away. So what this meant then at this point, because when I started this process, I wasn't aware of HPP. So I'd already developed formulas, had some packaging that I was leaning in on. And once we made the decision to go with HPP, essentially had to redo everything. The formulas wouldn't work. The packaging was glass, it wouldn't work. And so what we found was, most of the vegetable heavy HPP products that were on the market use things like apple juice or grape juice to get to that acidity necessary for HPP to work. But that again wasn't with the vision. We were trying to deliver products that taste like their underlying ingredients. We also were trying to deliver a complexity of flavor, but we always wanted logical recipes. We wanted to use ingredients that were in your kitchen and deliver meals that you wanted to cook for your kids, but you just didn't always have the time. And so we had a lot of people that said it couldn't be done. We either had to make a trade-off between a clean label product or use powders or rely on things like apple or grape juice, because if we only relied on lemon and lime, the acidity would just be so overpowering to get to bring that pH down of the vegetable. So this took a very long time, but after tooling around in the kitchen, R&D with others, we finally got to a place where we felt like we had formulas that tasted delicious and would work in HPP. So at the same time, I was trying to find a package, but not realizing just how temperamental packages could be for HPP. And so as I learned more and more about the packaging needs for HPP and what was available in a tiny little package for babies, I found that, outside of pouches, there really weren't that many cups that were in that, 3.5 to 4 ounce size. And APC, who I was working with, counseled me that a lot of packages were actually failing in production. And so they were HPP compliant, sold as HPP compliant, but they were finding them fail. And so this process of finding a cup ended up taking a very long time. We tested at least a half a dozen of cups and seals to find that right combination that would work. And over, they were failing. They'd work in the burst tanks, but then when we run them through an actual HPP machine, either the cups were bursting or leaking or the seals were coming off. And so this whole process ended up leading to us developing a custom cup that you see here on the right, but really adding a whole year to our timeline. And so as I look back, this is one of those times where I think, wow, I really should have been working on that package as long as I was working on the product or concurrently. But we finally got there. We had a package and we had tested a lot of different seals and felt like we had the winning combination here. And so we invested in the capital to be able to seal the cup. And finally, this was now close to mid 2018, early to mid 2018, we were ready to launch. And so had that first production run and was there. I was testing seals, trying to open containers, and everything was sealed really tight. But when it went through HPP, we ended up having in that first run about 95% waste, which was, if you can imagine, walking into the plant and just seeing. I have a beet product. It was like a bloodbath in there, just beets everywhere and garbage cans and garbage cans full of product. And essentially the seals were just sliding off of our cups. And so went back and did a lot more testing and felt like we found the right combination between pressure and dwell time and temperature. And so produced again, and this time we improved a bit, but obviously not sustainable. So 75% waste in that next run. And so at this point, I think it became obvious I had to find a new partner. I think we were just working maybe with people who weren't, not APC, our co-packer, who did not know what to do in this case, and we were a small, scrappy startup, so really the amount of time we needed to solve this was unknown. And so we ended up walking away from 2 years of working with that co-packer, and I'd say the lessons there One where first I thought, I'm done, I'm exhausted, this isn't possible, but ended up finding just great partners who with them, Carl from Tea Innovations, my current co-packer in APC, really learned more than I ever wanted to about packaging and manufacturing constraints, but we really were able to finally get to launch. And so start to finish, the whole process took about 3 years, but landed with the vision. So where are we today? We've launched Little Gourmets. It's we are delivering on vegetables. Each of our products delivers at least a serving of vegetables. They're all 70 to 95% veggies and beans. So really heavy in that vegetable content. We deliver just these global flavors, really complex ingredient lines to really bring flavor to kids, to babies and toddlers. And we've right now 6 products in the line that are really fresh. They taste and look like fresh food. They taste delicious, and really everything in line with the vision that I had. So really what we're trying to do at Little Gourmets is one, bring global flavors to our kids here in the US, and with that develop a love of veggies and cultivate a curiosity of flavors and cultures from around the world. So we hope that kids eat their Moroccan butternut squash and get curious about Morocco and make the world a little bit of a smaller place and just pique their curiosity of that. But at the same time, get them to learn to love veggies and deliver a product that parents feel so great about feeding their kids. And I won't go through all the ingredients, but you can see here just a real complexity of flavor that's unmatched in baby food. But honestly, we think this should be the norm. We should be feeding kids food that we find delicious, and unseasoned vegetables are not delicious unless they're raw. Sorry, I love raw vegetables, but not cooked unseasoned vegetables. So why would we expect our kids to do that? So you can see here just really kind of pushing the envelope on flavor profiles. And so today we are in test markets at Whole Foods and Target. We're in Meijer stores, and really HPP is what is allowing us to help grow this category. I think you probably heard it, I'm imagining, in the pet food session that was earlier today, but without HPP, we could not be in grocery. And we're so excited to be working alongside the market leader here in fresh baby Once Upon a Farm to help grow this category. And so with that, I will open it up for questions or let you go on your way to the cocktails.
All right, Shibani, thank you very much. We'll see if anybody has questions. They know already that I have some questions, so we'll see what goes. All right, until and unless someone goes up to the microphone then. So I'm very interested in what you did to actually get to the retailer. You can always offer a product, but you have to assure them some sort of shelf space. You are looking at a premium product. So what is it that triggered, or what was the conversation that allowed them to say, yes, we want to go with you?
Yeah, so it's been a really long process. So we launched at the end of 2018, and a lot of these retailers we just were able to get into last year and this year, mostly over COVID actually. And so initially we had a line of just 3 products, then launched a 4th soon after. And what we were hearing from most of these retailers was that was not enough. And so we needed to go back and we needed more variety. They wanted 6. And so we got back in the kitchen and really tried to get to some of this innovation to get the line that we needed. But I'd say, Tom, it was a lot of knocking on doors. And I think what has been helpful to us is that there is a market leader there in Once Upon a Farm with deeper pockets and celebrity and industry expertise that's leading the way. And so they're proving to retailers that parents are looking for fresh food. Because when we first started trying to reach out to retailers back in 2018, 2019, a lot of what we were hearing was, we're not sure that parents are looking for fresh baby food. We're not sure that they're willing to pay that premium. And I think with Once Upon a Farm proving that wrong, that's really piqued some retailers' interest to then help develop the category. And I'd say for retailers, no retailer wants a one brand category. They want multiple brands that fill different need states. And so that's what we bring. We bring a very different product than a Once Upon a Farm or even anything in the baby aisle.
Right. I saw some of the flavors that you indicated, and I know you talked about developing a wide flavor palette for children. I'm questioning the coconut cauliflower, though. I'm not even sure how you test that one.
With kids, well, I'd say, that the best thing is because their palates are so open in that early age. When we get to a baby, I mean, it's like 99% of the time they open up for seconds. It's really when we get to that 2-3-year-old where we kind of stand back and we're like, are they going to like it? Are they going to not? And it really so depends on how they've been eating for the previous couple of years of their lives. But yeah, these the coconut cauliflower mash, actually, we initially were going to call it a Thai curry, but seeing a second curry in the lineup felt like that might be pushing a little too hard. So we came up with a new name there.
All right. And on the piece, you said you were disappointed, but let's dig a little deeper. Your first test is 95% waste. Your second test improved dramatically to 75% waste. And all you were frustrated or disappointed?
No, I mean, I was heartbroken. I drove home and had to kind of be talked off a cliff a little bit. It was just, it was a turning point. Do I walk away from all the work that I've done, or do I figure out how to get this done? And so it just, I take a few days, talk to different advisors, and just talk to people in the industry to say, what am I missing? And what we really found was, it was that combination of the seal and the cup. So we were, because of manufacturing constraints at my original co-packer, we were trying to use a foil seal on a PET cup, and we were using temperatures that were hotter than what the PET cup is formed at. And so instead of actually sealing, what we discovered is we were kind of melting it on there. And so that wasn't strong enough to make it through the HPP. And perhaps it would have worked had we lowered the temperature. But, I went to the new co-packer, and essentially they were like, we're not sure about PET and HPP. And so what we did, luckily, was we found, if you can see, I don't think you can see that. So we found a different cup, sorry, and my virtual background, that we used temporarily. And the way our products work is they're in a sleeve. And so, I'm sorry, this is not working so well, but so we were able to slip a different cup into our sleeve and get to launch. And then we were in this temporary cup for probably, I think, about 6 to 8 months, where we then worked with Tea Innovations on different seals with different seal suppliers, different temperatures, all different variables to figure out, can we get this original vision, this kind of premium cup that I had developed to work? And the answer was yes. It just, we needed patience, and I needed to work with partners that really knew what they were doing. So actually getting to the true vision and the cup that I initially envisioned this would be launched in, I think we didn't get there until, I think it was January of 2020. It really was a long time.
All right. Any questions from the audience? Tom.
Hey, Shibani, it's Tom Woodward. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you. Congratulations on all your hard work and success. It's great to see. 2 quick questions. I'm not sure if I missed it. What kind of shelf life are you getting?
So we're getting 105 days. But I'd say that's more sensory. I think we've tested out to 115 days on safety. But as we look at the numbers, our co-packer feels confident we could get much further. But from a sensory point of view, we feel like we start losing some of the intensity on the spice. And so for now, we're sticking with about this 105 days to make sure that if someone tastes it, that first taste is what we want it to be.
Great. And the other question is, along with your retail success, do you see opportunities in direct to consumer?
Yes, I do. I think we haven't chased it as much as we should. And so we're starting to try to do more of that. We know there's, perishable has its challenges and definitely has had its challenge with delivery with FedEx and UPS during COVID. But we know that once parents find us, they want to have it on hand. And so they want to buy these quantities of 20 to 30, which most don't do in grocery. So I think e-com is an important piece for us, that it's there. We have all the capabilities today, but we haven't focused on it as much, but we're starting to focus on it a bit more.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that mix going through e-commerce is kind of interesting for parents to say, we're going to have 5 different flavors, give me 3 of each or 4 of each, a 15 or 20 day supply, right?
Exactly. And so we can do subscription models that parents love. It just, shows up every month, and that way they're upped without thinking about it.
All right, last question for me. Your second to last slide had 7 or 8 bullets saying, these are the things that I wanted to achieve. And some of it had to do with sugars, and one of it, I think another one of the bullets was protein. So realistically, those were the things that you wanted to achieve at the start, and you still were able to achieve them 3 years later?
So at the start, what we really wanted to achieve was veggie heavy. So put a line in the sand and said, everything has to be at least 70% vegetables, because we wanted it to be low sugar and we really wanted it to deliver on that veggies. And then we wanted to deliver a complexity of flavor that would be something that you'd want to cook in your kitchen. So we say when things are very fruit heavy, we could use a blender and replicate a lot of the baby food out there. But when we've got things like butternut squash or beets, these are really tedious things to cook. And so we really wanted to make that part easier. But in doing so, we wanted flavor to be, we wanted vegetable to be the carrier of the flavor, but we wanted to bring kids these flavors from around the world, because that's kind of was the genesis of the idea. Was I cooked food like this for my son, and then he just loved flavorful food. We could go to a Thai restaurant or a Middle Eastern restaurant and order family style, and I wasn't relying on a kid's menu. And I felt like that it was the combination of the two, of the vegetables and the flavor, that really was causing what I was experiencing.
Great. Any last questions? All right, Shibani, thank you very much for joining us. We look forward to having you live next year at the conference. Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, that includes our presentations for today. Please join us at the reception back in the N264, where there's a slightly larger choice of beverages. Hosted the sponsor there, Universal Pure. Thank you for that. And tomorrow, breakfast at 7. Again, the kickoff is at 8:30 for the presentations. Tomorrow is a half day of sessions. So N264, we'll see you down there in just a minute. Thanks, everybody.